Sarah Wrestling Podcast. I'm Sarah.
I'm Trish.
And this is our podcast. We talk about wrestling news and various topics from different promotions, primarily AEW, but also New Japan Pro Wrestling, WWE, and topics from around the wrestling world. Whatever we find interesting, and we hope you will too. We are a proud member of the Social Suplex Podcast Network, and you can find our content on our podcast feed, the Social Suplex Podcast feed, as well as on Twitter, Blue Sky, and YouTube. Please feel free to like, subscribe, and rate our podcast. We also encourage you to check out the Social Suplex newsletter, which is published every month and available at socialsuplex.com. Crazy amounts of news from all promotions across the world. Tons of features by, I think, good and interesting writers. That's my subjective opinion anyway. And the newest it's not an episode because it's not a podcast, it's a newsletter. The newest issue is coming out this week. So please check out socialsuplex.com. You may also notice a little bit of different aesthetics around these parts, but yes, Trish and Sarah, after 2.5 years, have finally moved past the MS Paint version of their logo. We have a new logo, which you are happy to see on all of our various eccentrical locations. It is a credit to our friend and friend of the podcast and friend of the network, Blorb. So she has done an absolutely spectacular job. We love the way that she's sort of upgraded and elevated, our logo into the 21st century. I don't know. We're excited about it. We love it. We think it's cute. Please appreciate it and send Blorb lots of thank yous if you see her around. So today is Sunday, April 12th, 2026, and ya girls are here to talk about everything going on in wrestling. We're going to start with AEW. This show's coming out on Tuesday the 14th, which is 2 days after AEW Dynasty, the 2026 version of the pay-per-view comes out. But we haven't seen it yet because it exists in the future, in our future. We're in a time cop place right now. So we're going to discuss a little bit of the build, not too much, I think, as we talk about it, and we'll cover anything major that happens in our next episode. So Trish, anything on Dynasty you want to discuss? The card is not filling me with, like, they added some matches to it this week that I think were coming out. The most shocking one for me was the Dogs winning the Trios Tournament Championship last night. It was a little odd, but yeah, I can't say this card is filling me with an incredible fire of excitement, but it should be a good pay-per-view. Sometimes these ones are sneaky.
Sure. So one of the reasons that we're not, there's a couple of reasons we're not discussing it. Monday is, reality is very difficult for us for the Sunday pay-per-views.
It's impossible for, let's blame it on me. It's impossible for me to watch a Sunday pay-per-view, go to my job and do this.
It's just difficult, right? Yeah. It doesn't work for either of us in that regard. And if we want to do something like that, we want to be able to give it the time and the investment that it needs, if you're going to do a match-by-match breakdown. The other thing is, quite frankly, is we could do a whole fucking thing on everything and all the outcomes and do that, and it could be fucking redundant in a week.
Yeah.
Because, like, legitimately, this week, it could be completely fucking redundant. And I think, in the state of everything, especially with the men's world title, it's worth waiting a week and seeing where all the pieces kind of fall before making any kind of big, what's the word? I don't
Prescriptions? Comments?
Yeah, whatever, or assessments maybe. So we will be waiting in that in effect. What do I want to say about Dynasty? So we'll just talk about, we talked a lot about the choice between Kenny Omega and MJF for Wembley last time round. What do I want to say about this? I think there's a conception that this world title match is like the kind of the last title match that's up in the air until Wembley.
Yeah.
And it's been interesting because there have been several different plans from here on out over the last month, to the point where it's actually fucking insane. And it's not just us that have heard that from different sources. That's also come from, I know people at other networks, kind of news outlets that have heard similar from different people. So it's, there's a lot of movement between different things. What I would say on this is that there has been a push for, Kenny to win here and, give him like the 5 months into All In and move the program to Kenny and Swerve, because there's two ways of thinking about this. One is, is there anything that MJF has left on the table that's going to draw more with the world title? You know, he's not wrestling Swerve in a singles program. He's not wrestling Mox in a singles program. Who else is there that's going to compete with that one?
Right.
And the other thing is like you have these secondary programs that do really, really strong numbers, do really, really well, and then never get converted into being world title programs. And it's like a ceiling that kind of limits people. And it's a frustration because it's like, look, one of the only times you've done that in recent years where you've moved that secondary program into the world title was the Paige and Moxley thing last summer. And look how successful that was. So it's like you want to see some sort of reward for like generating those numbers, for, you know, doing the work, being someone that's been driving everything forward. So there's been a lot of kind of argument towards that. That is the reason why the quarter hour appeared in the Observer last week. That was part of, you know, the politics of it. If the push for that to happen would be, you know, to get that number out there. And yeah, it's an incredible number. Like, that did a crazy numbers, that match. So, you know, you want to, if you're pushing for something, you want the evidence behind it. There you go. The idea of things staying with Max, you know, you can say things are going well, don't change it. I think there's some interesting numbers down the line. And you're going to have some big TV challenges this summer. So we talk about NBA playoffs kick in next week with the wildcard round into them, straight into a home World Cup for you guys in the US and Mexico and Canada that will be in prime time, etc. So you're looking at doing something differently. There is one route that they have that could result in, you know, multiple changes before Wembley. So what I would say is, after all the discussion that we had, there's probably more chance now that Kenny Omega walks into Wembley as champion than there was 3 weeks ago when we had that, or 2 weeks ago when we had that discussion, by a long way. But I wouldn't put 100% like money all chips in on anything right now, because there's been so much movement in the last month. I believe that the finish for this main event of Dynasty will not be the one they started with. And things are kind of going a little bit everywhere. And I do believe, you know, as much as we've heard like plans that may set out for the summer, the idea, I wouldn't say anything is locked in right now. So
you can see some of this playing out. I mean, we've talked on the show about MJF doing lots of media stuff now, and yep, you know, making what seems like pitches for things in his media interviews. And we had Will Ospreay this week saying he wanted a third match with Kenny Omega, and pushing for another match with Kenny Omega, which certainly seems like he's angling for something. So it's always interesting when this stuff comes out. Yeah, it's always interesting when this stuff comes out into public and you can kind of see people making pitches and making arguments publicly, which suggests that there's, like you said, a lot of things up in the air behind the scenes.
Yeah, no, it was an interesting Kenny Omega line in the interview that he did with Vice on Friday, where he talked about this year kind of being now or never for him. Yep. As like a last run on top. And it was funny because I was speaking to someone quite close to Kenny on Friday, and they used that phrase, you know, like like in terms of discussing his mentality, because, you know, you ask the question sometimes, and yeah, that is very much how in reality he looks at this year. You know, I've not been able to have the big babyface run on top of NEW, whether it's babyface, you know, the number one babyface challenging, or, you know, with the belt. So, and you look down the line now, and obviously he knows, I think, you know, we've had far too much story overdone with the stomach and stuff and that. But he does have an illness he has to manage. He is, you know, physically not where he was 5 years ago, because that's just age, you know, that's just how things happen. And, you know, he's what, you know, less than into, you know, depending on adding on time, he's only a couple of years left on the deal. So it's like, it is kind of now or never for him. And I think that's what drives a lot of the sentiment when you look at what he's doing and looking at a potential change here. And then also, you know, just say looking at the Wembley number, you know, it sits under 23k at the moment. To get, the last number they did there is very much out of reach. But even to get 40k, you're looking at wanting to do near enough 1,000 a week, every week between now and Wembley. It's a lot. And you need that because, again, as we said, it's because it is that venue. And it's frustrating. I was watching the boxing on Netflix last night from the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, and everything that we spoke about in terms of the seats and everything like that, it was like, it looked fantastic. And at times it wasn't full, but it looks like it is because of the dark chairs. But and it's like the acoustic, everything else that they have there, and it was just like, this is the place. But we are where we are. But yeah, so that's that one. The rest of the card, yeah, very much. It's a very short cycle, so it's very difficult to kind of become kind of really invested in a lot of these stories that are kind of like put together. You know, the Kenny Omega like build up for the MJF Max has been pretty much going since January, hasn't it? So yeah, he interrupted his first promo after World's End, which is something that in story a lot of people are kind of clinging on to because it's like that. So you got to be careful with them sort of pay off something. But it's like, so there's that. I think it's very much a top-heavy card in terms of that. Obviously, Moxley and Ospreay, they had a very good match back in Windy City Riot in Chicago. I wouldn't book him with the weird neck thing and having to do that. I would have just brought him back in like Superman. I don't think he's that sort of character, but you do you. I think that'll continue. And then elsewhere, they've thrown together Tekla and Jamie Hayter very much. It's a shame to see Willow not on the card. Yeah. The card's aged quite a lot since Revolution. You want to talk of the young roster. Obviously, there's no Paige, there's no Strickland on this one, there's no Willow.
No Fletcher, although that's because of injury.
Yeah, there's no Fletcher, but there's also like no Brody as well. So it's a lot, Speedball Mike Bailey and
I suspect we'll see a lot of these guys in the Casino Gauntlet match, but it's not the same.
It's not the same. I agree. So the card looks older on paper, which is kind of funny because we asked, like, what would they do? Would they step up? And within, like, a week, it was like, oh, Hurt Syndicate's back and Chris Jericho is back and we've just had Kofi and Christian come back. And I was like, wow, there's your answer. So that's kind of where they are with Dynasty. But yeah, I would just say to anyone that has takes on the AEW Men's World Championship situation after Sunday, to wait a week.
Yeah.
For numerous reasons, and I mean a week from when this goes out. I don't mean like later this week, just wait a week. And then we can assess where things are at. Yeah. So talking to returns, so as we so magically predicted on the last one, Chris Jericho is back.
I think we did it. Listen, let's toot our own horns because we're always quick to say when we did something incorrect and we were wrong. We were pretty strong here. I think we were a podcast that was not. There were definitely points where we were like, he might be going to WWE, but neither one of us was like, he's 100% going to WWE at any point during that his hiatus or his time off or whatever. So he's back, baby. It's gonna be interesting to see how his match with Ricochet is.
Yeah, I think the biggest questions are still over him in ring.
Yeah.
I do think that he is set up to he's doing his normal thing, I think, where he does his like babyface thing and then he turns heel.
Yeah.
Because that's his traditional return thing. He's done it years and years. You can see that from the way, the kind of smarminess of the promo. I'm like, okay. But yeah, obviously the big question is over his in-ring. I've listed out all the reasons why I thought they would keep him. Especially now with the Paramount deal, merger probably upcoming. The amount of debt that's being used for that, and especially in terms of relation to Middle Eastern countries, is makes you kind of think, oh my god, like, how's this deal even going to go through? But if it does, he's a useful person to have around for that sort of thing. Very good for the crossover stuff, and good for training. And you don't want to hand WWE anyone at the moment.
Nope.
You want to try and avoid that in any way that you can.
Especially because they're stepping on their dick so delightfully, but we will
we're going to get to that later.
We're going to get into that later, friends.
If you're looking for some Pat McAfee talk,
you're going to get it.
You're going to get it.
Oh, you're going to get it. And then we also have some dual contracts with CMLL that have come up recently with AEW.
Yeah, so Thunder Rosa and Claudio are announced as dual contract holders and I think what they'll probably look like, because there's no money involved in that really, right? We're not talking about substantial amounts. What you tend to have, I think it will probably work similar to what happens with New Japan, where it's actually more around selected dates. You have a number of dates. Like Takeshita has a number of dates each year with New Japan, and I think this will be similar. But it looks good. It's good PR, isn't it? To say that,
it makes it look less one-sided. Yeah,
and especially when you've got the two top names in CMLL signed to AEW now, Mystico and Masquerada. So it does make it look like that. I think it's a good PR move. Makes it look like a stronger part to their relationship. But just on the Jericho thing as well. Like, I know we said, and I've been very staunch that Jericho wasn't going back to WWE, and I've never seen anything. I have been told by people who are very well WWE sourced of things that were kind of put in place that would indicate that he was going there. So as much as I've been very, very bullish on it, there were definitely people in WWE that were made to believe that he was going there. So there's that. That's all I'm going to say on that. Well, kind of, yeah. So obviously next time round we'll have lots more to talk around AEW for. But yeah, just keep your takes a week. Keep them a week and then fly away. Because I think it's going to be a very interesting week. Oh my God.
You had a really good transition there for the next promo, but it didn't work. I knew we had more to say, but you said something about the CMLL deals not being for any significant money. Speaking of no significant money, TNA has made the decision to pull their talent from independent wrestling shows where they were to face and probably lose to AEW talent. This came up this week because we had Ricochet versus Leon Slater was scheduled for the WrestleCon Super Show. We had MJF versus Nick Nemeth. I don't remember which show that was for. And then
Create a Pro.
Okay, that was a Create a Pro show. And then we also had, this wasn't advertised, but MJF was supposed to face Bear Bronson, and that was also pulled. And then Moose was pulled from a Maple Leaf Pro multiverse show. And all of this came out, with a lot of people shitting on Carlos Silva again, MJF's media tour. He took an opportunity. I think he went on Busted Radio and shit on Carlos Silva, which, again, whomst among us has not shit on Carlos Silva. But this is an interesting one because I think TNA talent don't get the same level of pay that AEW, WWE talent do, and they certainly don't seem to have the kind of guaranteed. Most of them don't have the kind of guaranteed contracts that pay them that kind of money. So you're telling, I think that if you have a guaranteed contract with a promotion, then that promotion can pull you from shows if they want to. I think if you're paying somebody a decent wage and I have less of an issue with it. I think it's shitty to do once the match has been announced and advertised. I think once you get to that point, you should trust you want to have a partner promotion, whatever, but shit happens. We all get it. But to do this with people who are just not making that much money and take away their additional ways for them to make ends meet is really, really fucking shitty. A situation, which I agree with MJF. This is kind of a dick move.
Yeah, so I think there's several bits. So I don't believe that they're being all pulled off shows that have
they're pulled from talent, the matches. Yes.
Other than Moose, who was pulled off the show, but they're pulled from the matches, so they can't wrestle AEW talent, and that looks like that will be the way going forward. The thing around TNA with this is it's actually not the first show that TNA talent's been pulled off when an AEW talent's appeared. So actually the Inspiration appeared on for the lineup for TJPW's Grand Princess show a few weeks ago. And all of a sudden, Li Ying Li, who was Xia Li in WWE, Xia Li, thank you, in WWE, she was pulled, and they basically put it down to they needed her for the Sacrifice show on March 27th, which, that's very similar to when we've seen people pulled in AEW or even in WWE when it was NXT, It was like, okay, we need this person for this. We've either something's changed or we're just disorganized, quite frankly. Yeah. And we've done that. John Moxley getting pulled from OTT in Ireland for, over there. So that sort of thing. So that's one thing, right? If you're going to do that, then it's like, okay, it's shitty, but whatever. This one is, it's twofold, because to me, the opportunity to go to somewhere like TNA is to learn the kind of TV structure and the TV system. And you you can do all that, but you can also remain on the independence. And for someone like, say, Leon Slater is a perfect example. This structure works perfectly because he can make his name for himself on the kind of American side that he wouldn't be able to make just from the independence alone. He can learn how to how TV works, how the day-to-day works, all of that stuff, but without the pressure of an AEW or WWE. And he's going to get TV time, which he would not get in either of those two companies at the start.
Right.
But also, he can continue to do the independent shows. He can wrestle over here for Rev Pro. He can wrestle for WXW to get pulled by WWE for one of those days. He can go out and do US independents, whatever he wants to do. and it gives you the best of both worlds. And that allows you to still be able to develop, right? Because you want these talents to develop.
Yes.
And if they're just within the WWE or the AEW systems, a lot of the time there isn't as much opportunity to, because you're only wrestling once a week. And if you're on good money, then maybe you don't want to wrestle everywhere else. So I can kind of see that. But what it leads to is a lot of people who just aren't getting reps, and then when they get up to kind of big spots, are going to be surpassed by people who, quite honestly, have been to Japan for the last 3 years or 4 years, who have had 50 matches a year, minimum. Sometimes you're talking 120 matches a year. And just that ability to kind of try things out outside the public eye, just kind of figure yourself out. Like, look at Callum Newman, right? I'll talk about Newman a bit more in a minute. But it's like, he's figuring himself out because he can do it where he is. And it's not that high pressure situation. But he also has the opportunity to. And especially while they've got the kind of top end vacuum in New Japan with like Naito and Tanahashi and Okada going. It's like, you've then got the spots too as well to progress. Whereas you don't have that if you go in a young age in AEW or WWE because of the way that the system works and how there's like ceilings on everything. But then also now, because of the lack of house shows and everything else, you just don't have the time to do anything and the match reps to do anything. So it's like, that's where TNA can perform a different sort of role. It can perform like a developmental role in the entire system. But you have to pay people if you're going to do this. So that's the biggest thing. You're right. If you are going to pull talent and say they can't face this person, they can't face that person, then you have to supplement their income. So when AEW do it, that talent isn't losing anything, right? Because they will be paid. So as much as it's shitty to the promotion, the independent promotion when they pull talent for late reasons or whatever, it's not the same thing. Because look at, like, I'm using Slater as an example, but Slater's somebody that would be someone that you'd want on every show during like WrestleMania week on the independent shows, right? Yes. Every single one of them. He's that guy this year where it'd be like, because that like he's going to do some insane stuff. So he's an attraction in that kind of environment. And now you're limiting it because you're starting to go, oh, can I put this person there? Can I put that person there? And then you don't have that trust factor because you're like, well, what happens if they pull in from this? What happens if they pull in from that? And it's like, how much money is Slater going to earn in TNA this year compared to how much could he earn during that 1 week? Because you can earn a fair bit during that 1 week.
Right.
If you're in the right spots. So you're affecting his kind of income as well. And that's like, especially for some of the kind of weaker TNA deals, that becomes a much, much more important thing. And it's like, you got this new TV deal. We all don't think it's worth a huge amount because, you are not paying people proper money. Let's be honest.
Right.
You're not, there's still questions about, are you covering for healthcare? Are people still having to do GoFundMes when they're injured?
Yep.
It's ridiculous. If you want to play these games and you want to be in that position, then you do all the other shit too. Like, it's not one thing or the other. And it's frustrating because this comes back round to the thing around independent contractors, right? It's like, you don't want them to be employees because you don't want to have the benefits for them. But you're also restricting their ability to be independent contractors in this way.
Right. Like, let them take the dates and do the booking or don't. Like, it's just a fucked up situation. And I think the other piece of this that seems clear is that it seems clearly like something that's come out of their relationship with WWE.
Yep.
It doesn't seem like it seems like it's a WWE dictation rather than something TNA wants to do. And it's kind of weird because like they can make the argument that like, oh, well, we don't want to see our talent losing to these people. And that's fine. But like considering the people they have losing to like green people on NXT who've never won a match on NXT, like, that seems like it's sort of a bullshit excuse. But I don't know.
I think there's a lot of bullshit excuses here.
Oh, yeah.
There's a lot of things that want to make Carlos Silva the bad man here. And to an extent he may be, right? But the idea that this is all just about not wanting to lose to AEW talent when these finishes have all been cleared and agreed. Don't get it. The idea, that's been floated around as well, that this is something to do with anger from AMC that Collision ran on Thursday night.
That's such a load of shit. Give me a break.
Yeah. From, coming through from TNA, who were more than happy, by the way, to be potentially going head-to-head with AEW on CW.
Right, on Wednesday nights. Yeah.
On Wednesday nights. And also, for as much as you can say, Collision appeared on a Thursday night. Collision was on every Thursday night when there was a WWE PLE or an NXT PLE for much of last year, and then went back to Saturday nights this year during it. So actually left TNA in that spot, and you can look at why you wouldn't want to do that in terms of being compared to TNA. But they have avoided you. You know, they have...
Yep.
And normally that would be to detriment. Obviously, the new system, everything's fucking whatever. But it's like... But it's like they've avoided you. So you can look at more occasions where they could have moved to Thursday and they didn't, than the one where they were enforced to by the rotoring for TNT. And then the other bit is that it's so fucking easy to just blame Carlos Silva and this is just low TNA and there's all this history of being TNA. Da, 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 da. They have an agreement with WWE.
Yeah.
They have a written agreement. Like, all you're doing here sometimes, and this is where the only thing that was bothering me about everyone going after Silver and stuff was like, WWE must be fucking laughing their heads off here, because they want you to treat AEW on the same level as TNA, right?
Right.
So they don't mind if it's AEW versus TNA, and you've got, AEW talents and everyone else going out and criticising TNA. That's the perception they want. It's just like they had when it was AEW versus NXT and not the main roster. That's exactly what they fucking want. And it's like, and then people are like, well, why would WWE do it? And it's like, you mean the WWE that tried to block every independent from getting venues in New Orleans? The WWE that have literally done everything to try and get rid of WrestleMania week on a consistent basis for the last 15 years.
Anybody who thinks that WWE wouldn't do something like this is clearly not paying attention and has no fucking clue what they're talking about. And I agree with you about Carlos Silva. Carlos Silva is to blame in the sense that he's like, his job is literally to do whatever NXT or WWE. Yeah, his job is to do what WWE wants him to do. Like, he's not there because he's like some great independent wrestling mind.
And the funny thing is he's even basically said it, and like Fightful got the quote from him, where it was like he told him directly it was due to partner conflicts.
Right.
And Sapp didn't think, that's to do with AMC. He literally puts it in the sentence, we have no confirmation that WWE instructed TNA to pull talent from the indies who are facing AEW talent. Carlos Silva did directly tell us it was due to partner conflicts. Like, they're spelling it out for you. Like, why are we looking past this?
Yeah.
It's like, do you think TNA would have taken this decision just by themselves?
Right.
Like, fuck off with that. Like, it's like, this is very much the WWE playing games as they have in the past, with venue blocking, all these sorts of things. But this is all about trying to make you think that they're on the same level as that and then just being disruptive. And that's what they do. It's what they've always done. It's like, sometimes you see a pattern of behaviour and it slaps you in the face and all of a sudden we try to pretend that it's not there. It's like, this is crazy. So, yeah, I expect it to continue, but this is absolutely like WWE playbook, left, right, centre. And, and I feel for the wrestlers.
Yeah, they're the ones that lose.
Yeah, and look, there's still going to be people that are interested in going to TNA, because whether you're, I was going to say washed up, that's a bit harsh, but if you're someone who's just been kind of released recently in recent years from WWE and you aim to get back there, it's maybe potentially a roach, right? That's something. If you're someone that's had, found themselves against blocks elsewhere and can't go to WWE now, it's potentially a second career like Mike Santana.
Right.
And it's also a place where you can learn TV without the pressure. And I go on about Slayer all the time, but it's a good point. Like, you can learn that kind of system without having to deal with the politics and the pressure of the, AEW environment or WWE environment. So there is always going to be like a role for it in the current ecosystem like it is. But my God, like, that's so untalent friendly. And it goes back to that whole thing around independent contractors and whether it's worthwhile or not, because you're taking away so many of the advantages of your company here. I think that's what it hurts the most. Is like, here's the reason to go to do that, and we're going to take that away, and we're going to take that away. Oh no, you think you're going to get a pay increase because we're now on AMC? Like, forget that. Are we going to start doing long-term deals, or are we just going to carry on doing 3-6 months? Some people want like pay-per appearance, or some people we've not contracted at all that we're using, and then they end up in AEW 3 weeks later.
Womp womp.
Yeah, sort it out. It's just poor form, and it's just these sort of little games just kind of piss you off after a while. But yeah, it just makes me feel sorry for the talent. That's it on that.
New Japan Pro Wrestling has a new IWGP World Champion. that was crowned at, was it Sakura Genesis? Yes. Yeah. Callum Newman is the youngest ever IWGP World Champion. He beat Yota Tsuji and now holds the IWGP and then showed up on AEW.
Yeah.
As part of the United Empire, because Will Ospreay has no friends in AEW. He had to get them from his other school. To quote the gals on Tunnel Talk. Just literally nobody gives a shit about Will Ospreay in AEW. Speedball Mike Bailey's out there for every fucking other guy. The Paw Patrol is out there for every motherfucking other guy, but fuck Will Ospreay. He clearly pissed somebody off. He did something that somebody doesn't like. So he had to import his friends from Japan.
Maybe he stamped on his feet or something.
Who knows? Well, he should put some fucking shoes on. Look, I'm not getting back into that again. I got a lot of shit for that. Probably deserved. But yeah.
That was like the most easy bait ever. I'm sorry.
Couldn't help myself. I'm just being honest about how I feel. But yeah, how do you feel, Trish? You know that I'm not a big New Japan Pro Wrestling person. So what are your you seem to be excited about this win. This was something you viewed positively. I know there were a lot of folks who were kind of shitting on this. I thought this was one of these like post-show, like, you know, when you're not involved in something, but you kind of are tangentially involved. And I'm like, this person loved this person hated it, this person hated it. Like this had mixed feelings associated with it from Western fans.
Yeah, so look, I can see some of the arguments, right? Because you do the crowning of Tsuji at Wrestle Kingdom. You have one defense of that championship between January and now, and then he drops it.
The infamous Jake Lee. The infamous Jake Lee.
He's just trying to do an Asawa impression, and he's not very good on it. Like, Kenta Miyazawa tricked the world. Like, Miyazawa? Jesus Christ, I mix up names. Oh, I'm going home. Kenta Miyazawa, like, he tricked everybody. He made him think, like, Jake Lee's this incredible in-ring wrestler, and he's actually just Jake Lee. But anyway, I can see the argument for that. I can see the argument in terms of you wanted to keep the belt on him all year, through to Wrestle Kingdom next year, and make that, you know, this strong reign and presenting him as the guy to the world. But what I would say on that is, I get it. I also think that this isn't his like definitive title run, because as we said around Wrestle Kingdom, you know, he didn't get that big dome crowning moment. That didn't happen. He was the second underneath to the Tanahashi retirement match. So that thing is still to come for Tsuji. But what the biggest things are now is, right now, you know, you've got people to a certain point, but you need not one guy involved at the very top here. You need 3, 4, 5. You know, the same way that we had in the golden age of kind of 2016, 2020, where you had your Naito, your Okada, your Tanahashi, your Omega, your Ibushi on the side, you know, J.O. coming through, whoever. It's like, that's what they need. So it's like you've got to try and get a lot of people up to this very top place. And with someone like Newman, you know, you've just committed him to 3 years. I know Dave reported it. I mean, this week we reported it in the newsletter about a month or so ago. You know, 3-year deal, you've got him committed for that long time. And what you're doing as well is you're rewarding, like, his progress, quite frankly. Like, this is someone that I have criticised in the past for, like, not just like his ring work, but like the way that he connects with the crowd, the way he kind of responds. Everything kind of in the past kind of felt very kind of paint by numbers. It was like, I do this move, this move, this move. And there was one thing that used to drive me crazy, is that he just wouldn't pick his head up. So it'd be like in a submission and you're trying to show pain, and his head up is not up looking at the crowd. Like, there's no connection. He's not showing anything. There was like no kind of emotional involvement. He wasn't giving the crowd anything to go off, and especially when he was playing the kind of very bland babyface that he was at the start of New Japan. And this is a guy that has been working with people there on slowing things down a little bit, you know, kind of making things impactful, figuring out the timing in matches of when to do what, and then also figuring out his character and figuring out how to kind of be Callum Newman and present that to the crowd, whether it's in your promos or in your matches, rather than being Will Cosplay, essentially. Right. And he's done really, really well at that. And look, it's like, this is their traditional couple of months in a year where they will give someone a belt for a couple of months. You test them out. It's like the non-kind of, I was going to say, it's like the non-pressure period of the year, right? So you get them to experience with it. that sort of thing. They have a quick run, they drop it back at Dominion, and then you go on to someone who is more comfortable with it, holding it through to G1. That is something they've done for years and years and years, whether it's been from Secure Genesis or Invasion Attack to Dominion, whichever one. Naito's reign was like that in 2016. You can come up with many a person they've done that with. So it's like, it's not the end of the world. And you give him this opportunity. Obviously, it's playing into their long-term story that they're doing with Will Ospreay, which is going to run all the way through this year and all the way through next year in New Japan, because Will's already committed to... I think it's 8 or so dates in New Japan next year. So It's like, you have all these things in place, and you can do those kind of bits, and obviously the eventual Newman turn, because he's going to turn on Ospreay and go full heel. And then it's not the end of the world for Tsuji either. Like, Dominion is on national TV again, same way as Wrestle Kingdom was.
Yep.
And then last year they had their special TV for the Tanahashi Jam show in Nagoya, and the belt changed there too. And we've already seen the setup for Aaron Wolf getting his belt back in Dominion as well. And I don't think it's coincidence that you'd have Tsuji and Wolf 2 times on national TV winning titles, right? That's a very New Japan thing to do. But yeah, the IWGP has now changed on the last 2 of these kind of national shows, and I expect it will the 3rd. So it's like, but this is all about having that group together, because everyone's so like concerned with who's going to be the ace in New Japan, who's going to be the ace in New Japan. But it's like Tanahashi's right. Like, we're not looking for an ace right now. We need 4 or 5 guys to kind of build back up, so you can have all these matches between them that draw between there, because no one draws by themselves.
No.
Contrary to some public belief. But it's like, nobody draws by themselves. Like, you need these other people on that level to have these matches that are going to draw. And especially now, when in Japan, where inflation is a huge issue, cost of living is a big issue. Obviously, that's only increased by everything with, the US-Iran conflict, because Strait of Hormuz and the way they get energy there. And it's like, there's so many pressures. That's why you're seeing so many promotions in Japan launching ticket sales earlier. G1's up already for New Japan. The dates are up. Best of Super Juniors went on sale early. DDT have put their stuff on sale early. Noah are way early. You're seeing that trend because of all these pressures. So you need something more. You can't just be the brand name. That doesn't really work like that. You need these people up to a point where they can carry that in the company. And that's all this is aimed for. It's not some big thing. I saw there was a suggestion that it was like, oh, this is down to because Tsuji stepped up against Bushiroad, and made the...
Oh, yeah. He was making those comments, yeah.
Yeah, when he was like, you need to treat us like human beings, and everything that happened after that, and the shouting match everyone was listening to through walls and whatever. But it was like, no, it's got nothing to do with that. This is where they were going. This is the plan that they had back in January. And yeah, and you can see obviously they're doing the Gabe Kidd stuff with his anti-AEW stuff. And he's still contracted there too. He's dual contracted. But it's like, it makes sense to do that. He got a very funny reaction. It was so loud when he took his shirt off and he's like his AEW shirt. They were like, woo! And it's like, do you remember on like the last couple of years, they were like, New Japan fan sentiment isn't anti-AEW. And it's like... But it's like, yeah, play on that, make some money out of it. I think, making everything around like Forbidden Door between the companies a little bit more adversarial, for like actually like properly on the television and stuff is not the worst thing in the world. But I also would say that I thought the presentation United Empire was much better on AEW television this week than probably the last, I don't know, half dozen maybe times that they've had New Japan talent on. They tried to explain everything. They used the angle to set up for the match rather than just shoving him in a cold match like Hiromu did, back in last year or in even the year before when he did the Moxley thing. It's like, and they, I sort of had them in the same roles because I guess you can say that United Empire are a lot more heelish in New Japan, but it was like it fit within what they were doing. Hanare, who someone else also signed recently a new 3-year deal, looked like he was having the time of his life because he didn't have to play Ishii for a little while. So so I think they did a good job of that. I did think it's funny. So I saw a joke that made me laugh, and it was like the minute that belt was on a white English speaking man, he was straight on Dynamite. I was like, wow. I was like, no. But yeah, I just think that it's just part of their process is, and they're going to suffer a little bit in their next kind of months. You'll see some comparisons, I think, to next year and the next few months up to Dantaku and stuff, and it's just going to be ridiculous because of the big business that Naito did on the way out. And I think for him especially, there's probably a point you want to prove in terms of, Naito's going to wrestle Ozawa.
Yeah,
one of my new special little guys. Love Ozawa. Mate, I stayed an extra day in Tokyo just to see Ozawa. And I did Naito too. You can't lose on that, can you? See Ozawa and Endo. But so Naito's going to wrestle Ozawa Ryogoku on May 2nd during Golden Week. And I think they'll be looking at the number that New Japan did for Sakura Genesis. I'm wondering if they can surpass that for that. So that's a real test of what Naito can do outside of New Japan with, Noah's biggest draw. So that will be interesting. And look, I'm treating Naito, right? This is a complete tangent, but fuck it. It's our podcast. If I want to talk about Naito,
it's our show, Trish. It's our fucking show.
It's our fucking show. I'll talk about Naito. I'm treating Naito like I am my bigger rabbit, I'm sorry. I keep doing it. I've watched a few of his matches and the tag matches, and he's managed to not fuck up. And I'm just treating him but he doesn't need to do these incredible things. All he needs to do is just do the same thing. And I'm but he did a destroyer and he managed a Destino without looking like shit, and he didn't do anything as well with his knees. And I'm giving him a clap, and then there's someone on the other side, Inamura is Inamura, you need to have the greatest match ever for me to get over this stupid character in your NXT links, and the fact that I just can't see you as a champion even though I love you. It's this is literally how I treat my rabbits. And Naito, I'm but he did his Destino.
The bar is low for our faves, and I don't think there's any harm in admitting that. And I think saying listen, if my fave does what he does, and I love watching, I should say them, then you know what, we're happy. There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, but I am treating him like that. But I think that's I've enjoyed that. That promo is just full of what we call in the UK, we call it shithousery.
Shithousery.
Shit. Have you never heard the term shithousery?
I've heard the term. I was going to say, I don't think this is just a specific UK term.
All right, but we use it for football when people are kind of wasting time or just winding people up and that sort of thing. And they'll say, shit houses. But that's what it's doing. It's just full of people just being little shit houses. And it's both of them. It's you took the biggest shit houses in wrestling, the people that are going to wind everyone up the most, Naito, and then the modern day equivalent in a way. I'm saying modern day equivalent, Naito's 60 years old, but it's in Ozawa. And now you've put them together. And I was I hope this isn't dull. And it's no, they're just both funny, and it's funny. And look, and even when they're leading up to, they make it really big, and they'll be and it's just an 8-man, and you're just it's just the best. And I'm just getting so much amusement out of it, because everything sometimes American wrestling, with the way TV is and the way politics are, it's all so serious. And I'm just gonna watch Naito and Ozawa just be little brats to each other. Just enjoying it. But yeah, so that's kind of a little bit of a Japan update. But yeah, I'm not worried about it. I thought Sakura Genesis was a very good show. I thought that the end of the New Japan Cup, which literally emphasised youth, from Umura to Shota to, everything that was going on, obviously with the final with Newman as well. I thought it was great. We don't have to have the Tsuji agenda that people were racing to go out. He can't wrestle without Takeshita. And it's well, how about that? Tsuji will be fine, don't worry. And I just good. They're just doing what they can at the moment. I don't think you can do anything magical. There obviously are still other issues there underneath in terms of the way the system works compared to the US. But in terms of what they can do right now, I think they're doing what they can. And
that's all you can ask.
It's fresh. It's exciting because it's fresh, and you don't know what's going on. And but you also get to see people progress and people being in spots for the first time, and that's kind of exciting too, rather than seeing the same, 2-3 people at the top all the same time.
Speaking of the same 2-3 people at the top all the time.
Oh, we're on the transitions, right? People will be waiting for this, won't they? People are going to be we can't not do this. As soon as you saw the first one, it was we this is going to be the majority of this episode, and we can't not do it because it's too fucking funny.
I actually tortured myself by watching WWE, folks. I know people enjoy that I do that, and I'm fine, I'll do it, but it just, So the last couple of weeks, we talked about this a little bit in our last show, but the last couple of weeks have been an absolutely incredible look into the shit showery that is the WWE booking into WrestleMania, which is next week, right? Am I insane? Mm-hmm. It's next week, WrestleMania.
Yep.
Okay. So 1 week away from WrestleMania, right? So 2 weeks ago, and we talked about this briefly, April 3rd, SmackDown, there had been some intrigue going into this show about Randy Orton and Randy Orton having friends and who is Randy Orton on the phone asking help for, blah, 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 blah. And there were people who come up with ideas. A lot of people thought it might have been Vince McMahon. It was some discussion about like someone in a wrestling family or whatever. So April 3rd SmackDown was in St. Louis, which is Randy Orton's hometown. Randy Orton came out and cut a just straight babyface promo. Like, there was really nothing heelish about it. And he is the heel in this program. There are going to be WWE fans and other folks who are going to tell you, oh, well, you know, they're trying to... No, they made a giant heel turn. Randy Orton is the heel. He came out and cut a babyface promo and the crowd cheered him like absolute insanity. Like, he was fucking over, right? Cody then came out to confront him and got mildly booed. That's your babyface champion. And eventually Pat McAfee came out, crotched Cody Rhodes, and gives one of the weirdest promos I've ever heard in my life, where he talked about the fact that WWE is bad now because they're no longer catering to the forgotten fans, the Attitude Era fans. And this absolutely cracked me up because the youngest Attitude Era fans have to be at most 30. Right? At most 30. And you're probably looking at people in their late 30s to their 40s at best, right? I mean, which again, if you're trying to appeal to the teenage boy that lives in every adult man, whatever. But he does a whole promo about how Cody's a shitty champion who isn't selling tickets or drawing interest. So Pat McAfee has come back here to save the business. He's here for the business. If they said the business once, he said it like 12 times. He's here to save the business because he's loved the business since childhood. Not wrestling, the business, okay? So an 11-year-old Pat McAfee is cheering for The Rock because The Rock is best for business. He's pulling tickets. Pat McAfee is taking notes from The Observer. He's listening to Dave Belzer on Donahue or whatever the fuck, whatever. He is just all over this, okay? He is anti-Rosenberg. This is, Orton cares about the fucking business, okay? He does this whole thing about how everybody should be really excited about Randy Orton and no one should ever have to watch a short man wrestle. This is the thing that always cracks me up about these fucking guys, is that like a short man wrestling is the worst thing that has ever happened to them. Like, that's an offense that they shouldn't have to see on television, along with a woman who doesn't have
also a Vince McMahon line.
Right. And enormous breasts, right? A woman without enormous breasts, a short man wrestling, someone who isn't like ripped out. Meanwhile, Randy Orton doesn't look like a human being anymore. He looks like
He's
Shrek.
a cyborg. He looks like Shrek.
He looks like Shrek. Like, Shrek might be marginally more attractive. I'm just going to say it. So that was your April 3rd SmackDown.
I can't not see it now. Yeah,
I told you.
He looks like Shrek.
He looks like fucking Shrek. So I should point out that Pat McAfee did this entire promo with Cody being beaten up in the ring, right? So Cody came back out later on in the show and did a whole worked shoot promo, right? Where they really wanted you to believe that this promo was not approved. And this was a fun part where you had wrestling, Pro Wrestling Insider and good old Mike Johnson, first one on the speed dial. And then you got bodyslam.net, breathlessly rushing to Twitter and rushing to their outlets to tell us that the locker room is furious. The locker room is outraged.
Might as well be fucking Pravda, mightn't it? Yeah.
Right, seriously. This is unbelievable. Ari Emanuel is pushing this storyline. He's the one who forced them to put Pat McAfee in this, and the locker room is furious at this. Bro, this is an outrage, right? Okay, yeah. So Cody comes back out for this, was this promo on the rundown sheet before the show started? We don't know if it was. He might have forced the promo time. Guys, the fucking promo has been blared all over their social media. It's blared all over their fucking YouTube page. Do you genuinely think that they would be doing that if this was some kind of forbidden fucking thing? They wouldn't have cut the cameras or done whatever. This is the biggest little bullshit. If you genuinely believe that there's a fucking TKO is forcing you need to leave the room right now because you're a child. You should give me your money. I'm Alexa Bliss and I'm asking you for $100,000. This is it's bullshit. Okay.
The best thing is they didn't even fucking try and cancel anything on the rundown. It's not like we went, we shortened this match and we got rid of this, because when the Rock overran by about 20 minutes. They didn't know none of that. At least make an effort to make this look like something. But
I'm confident that Cody Rhodes has some frustration with the current booking of this WrestleMania program.
He should have some frustration with his own fucking booking for the last year.
Well, that too. I'm sure that he let some of that bleed into the promo, right? But he gives this basic promo where he's here to talk to Pat McAfee, and he wants to talk to Pat McAfee's representatives, and you know who they are, which is like a shot at Ari Emanuel. And he does this thing about he knows people backstage are doubting him. There's like a whole work shoot thing underneath it where he's basically saying he knows people backstage are doubting him and they want him to turn heel, but he's the one responsible for all the big gates, and he's the one responsible for WWE being hot, and they can't fire him, and blah, 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 blah. And it was just like, as promos within a feud, neither of these worked. They made no sense. Why would Randy Orton give a shit about Pat McAfee? Why would Pat McAfee give a shit about the Attitude Era, right? Why would Cody Rhodes care about any of this? Or it just didn't make any sense, and it was really stupid. It got widely and insanely panned across basically anybody who was anybody was bitching about it. Nobody liked it, right? But then people got really excited because Pat McAfee went on his show later that week and stayed in character the whole time. And it was just like, I don't know. It's one of these things where it's like, if this is your best idea, you guys are fucked. And maybe, if you want me to believe that TKO and Ari Emanuel said, yes, we really want Pat McAfee to be involved in this. We want to push celebrities for this WrestleMania. We think it's going to help us. That's fine. Fine. I might be able to believe that. But the problem with this, Trish, is that this is the same fucking shit that happened last year when The Rock showed up and fucked up all of Triple H's booking. Remember? He inserted himself in that show and forced all this stuff. And then he forced the Cena heel turn. And then Triple H had no fucking ideas. Okay, because I don't believe for a second that Triple H, that fucking Ari Emanuel is writing out Pat McAfee's promo. That Ari Emanuel is writing out how this is supposed to go. I think maybe the worst case scenario, they handed him Pat McAfee, and these fucking guys couldn't figure out what to do with him. They had no fucking clue how to do with this. And this is my problem with these guys. They can't fucking pivot. The same thing with the Cena heel turn. They had nothing for that. Even if you want to argue that was the thing that got sent to them that they couldn't do on their own, they couldn't come up with something. Right? Same thing with this. You couldn't come up with something. It's about the fucking business. Jesus Christ. That's what 10-year-olds love, is they love when grown adult men are fighting about fucking business. Whatever. And that's the part where it screams to me that it's fucking writer's room, because that's a bunch of old fucking wrestling assholes who are like, yeah, we've got to protect the business, because they think that's what people want to, are going to get really excited about. Okay, whatever. So then we had Raw, which was Monday, April 6th, and they got really all excited because CM Punk got to drop a pipe bomb. And I had to sit through this. And I can't tell you, the only thing worse than sitting through a CM Punk match in 2026 is sitting through a CM Punk promo in 2026. It's not good, folks. I get that he has a cadence that's really nice, and he acts like he's talking directly to you, and he gets really fired up, and he stands on the furniture and everything, but it's still not good. He specifically went out there. And again, they're advertising. They're trying to do this backstage stuff where it's like, well, but, Punk went out there without any, first it was he had no clue on what he was going to talk about. Then it was he had bullet points about what he was going to talk about. Then they announced the fucking producer for the segment.
And the writer.
Usually producer means writer in this scenario. So they announced this. So yeah, the guy went out with nothing to talk about. And first of all, the advertising, the YouTube page is like, CM Punk drops a pipe bomb. Oh! And the Twitter was the same way. And he even mentions it. He's like, if you want me to drop a pipe bomb, you have to be ready for the consequences. What are the fucking consequences? The other funniest fucking part about this was at one point, he's taking shots at Roman, right? Because the promo is ostensibly about Roman Reigns. So he's taking shots at Roman. He's plastic. He's old. He talks about how Roman has to rely on help, and Punk was able to put Roman through the table the week before all by himself. And this is really, really funny because you got to go back and watch the footage of Punk putting, quote unquote, putting Roman through the table by himself, where he had these two huge guys next to him, ready to help him do it. They were spotting him in the most obvious fucking way. I was peeing my pants. And I felt like that was the thing that he was clearly self-conscious about, because otherwise why would he have mentioned it? Whatever. The other funny part about this promo was that Punk starts off by talking about what a great wrestling town Houston is, and how he drops Harley Race, and he names drop another old guy, and the crowd immediately starts with what chance. Immediately goes into what chance as soon as he fucking starts talking about Harley Race and all this old shit.
Toto, you are not in Kansas anymore.
Right. And so Punk immediately leaps up and is like, no, it's wonderful to be in Houston and be alive on a Friday night or Monday night or whatever it was. Yeah. The crowd started chanting OTC. I will give Punk credit. The crowd at one point was loudly chanting OTC. He was able to get them back on his side, and he got them cheering for him and chanting CM Punk. Like, he was able to do it, and, I give him credit for that because it's not always easy to do. That said, his hair plugs are as distracting as Roman's teeth are now. Like, the giant bouffant that he's doing is just, like, it's just, like, what is happening up there? It doesn't look like it's structurally sound. The promo was all about Roman is safe and plastic and manufactured, and Punk is real and dangerous.
Of course.
And he said the best line he had was, "This is pro wrestling and not cinema." Okay, Denise. If it's not cinema, then why are you just doing retrashes of your old shit? He also did this weird section where he kind of lost his train of thought and was stumbling over his words and blah, 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 blah. And then he said, and this is really fucking funny coming from CM Punk of all people, he did a whole section about Pat McAfee, which was like, whoa. And then he went on about how Pat McAfee's agent needs to lower ticket prices. And he goes, the number of times the receipts were mentioned, Cody mentioned receipts, Punk mentioned receipts, McAfee mentioned, the receipt thing was A, it was ridiculous, and B, I was like, guys, get out of CBS. Stop with this bullshit backstage talk. And yeah, he talking about how Pat McAfee has a receipt coming on and it's his business. Punk's the one, it's his business. He's the one. I'm like, fuck off, guy. He did this whole thing about how he was putting in his time. And I'm like, you fucking disappeared for 11 years. Pat McAfee was putting the time in back then. You fucking weren't, whatever. So yeah, YouTube and Twitter were like, it's another pipe bomb. There's a whole YouTube clip about the best roasts from this. He shit on The Rock. It was fine. The crowd enjoyed it at the end. It got more people into it than the Pat McAfee shit, but I don't know. It's not good. All right, so then we had SmackDown on Friday night, and if SmackDown from the 3rd of April was bad, this was fucking even worse. So there were multiple segments, right? He had a segment where Jelly Roll is there. Jelly Roll's just there all the time, and at one point someone was like, "You don't even work here," which was like... I think it was Pat McAfee, and I might have actually laughed. Pat McAfee's like, "You don't even go here." And I was like, he doesn't go here. What is he doing there? Jelly Roll had a segment where Cody comes up and Nick Aldis is like, there's strict orders from above. And you know who that is, Cody, that McAfee and Randy Orton can't be touched from above. And I was like, what the fuck is this? They're trying to do a TKO versus WWE thing. Come on. Also, Nick Aldis has a really weird accent.
It's all the time in Florida.
It's so weird. And then Jelly Roll showed up to say that he has Cody Rhodes' back. What has this guy done? He's not physically intimidating. He's a formerly fat person, which again, I respect formerly fat people, but he hasn't put on muscle, so he's just got that weird deflated look to him where it's he's a tall guy, but other than, he doesn't look tough. I get that he has face tattoos, but that just doesn't automatically equate to toughness in my mind. Whatever. Then Pat McAfee and Jelly Roll had a confrontation that took up TV time. And McAfee's biggest issue with Jelly Roll is that he's not part of the business. He's not from the business. And I'm like, again, does Pat McAfee have this long history with the business that I'm not aware of? Isn't he a fucking... plus both of these guys had fake accents that were unbelievable. Because in order to do this heel turn, Pat McAfee is playing up this accent. And again, I'm not familiar with Pat McAfee lore, so maybe he talks like this all the time and I don't know because I have better things to do with my life than watch any second of this man doing anything, but he kept being like Randy Orton, and he would pronounce it like Jelly Roll, which was the only good thing about it was jelly, and I was like, yeah, okay. So then we got a promo segment where Pat McAfee came out, and the WWE announcers were like, "Oh, last week Pat McAfee ran over the WWE with a steamroller," and I was like, guys. McAfee shit on Punk. He claimed he's a hypocrite, compared him to a politician, and then questioned, and this was probably one of the only good lines, he questioned whether or not the money that Punk is making off of all of his 283 items in the WWE shop, whether the checks from that were going to the poor people who can't afford to go to WrestleMania, or if they're going into CM Punk's, I'm sorry, Saudi Arabia bank account. That was pretty fucking funny. I appreciated that a lot. And the fact that he called out how many things he had in the shop and shit all over the jacket and the t-shirt he was wearing in Houston. As a certified, licensed, registered with the state of Massachusetts CM Punk hater, I can appreciate a good burn no matter who does it. Anyway. But the funny part about this was by doing that line, McAfee did the same thing that Cena did in the lead up to his match with Punk, where they basically explicitly call out Saudi Arabia as evil. They're business partners. But they specifically call him out in kayfabe as being bad. Like, guys, what are we doing? So then the best part, this is another fucking phenomenal moment of like how fucked up this whole thing is. McAfee is aggressively the bad guy. He seems to be the only person that anybody wants to boo. McAfee comes out and says that because Cody sucks so much and because nobody wants to go to WrestleMania, he went to Dodge Ram and convinced them to pay to give everybody 25% off all Mania tickets on Saturday night, right? Not Sunday Mania, just Saturday Night Mania. And he specifically says that they didn't do a discount for Sunday night's Mania because no one wants to go, because no one wants to see those people wrestle. So McAfee's promo is about how much the thing sucks. And then him as a heel is saying 25% off Mania tickets. What the fuck?
Courtesy of Dodge Ram trucks.
The crowd booed this. Then Cody's
we don't
music
want
hit.
cheaper tickets, not from us.
Boo! We want to pay through the nose. The crowd booed. Cody comes out, and his entrance is so long that McAfee starts making fun of him.
Like he did the wall thing, and he goes no, and I'm like, oh, that's such a you suck angle edge moment. Like that's it. Like that'll catch on when
it will. I would catch on. No, I'm gonna start doing it now.
That's gonna come a thing. I guarantee. At some point in time, like people will pick up on that because that's like I was like, oh, don't do that. Oh my god,
so bad. So Cody starts the promo by pointing out, because again, a lot of people shit on this element of Cody's promo from last week, that the Attitude Era was 30 years ago, and he makes fun of McAfee for that, and then immediately brings up Paul Bosch. Because that's a relevant reference in 2026. It was unbelievable. He did this whole thing about how Paul Bosch said that wrestling fans weren't fans, they were customers. And then he went into a whole thing. He did this pandering. We do it for the fans because they're not customers. They're not fans. They're our family. The WWE Universe family. And I was just
oh my god, he does sound like Vince. Oh my god.
It was really shitty. And then he says the fans don't care about Pat McAfee. They just want to see Randy Orton and Cody Rhodes, right? Which they don't, because I think if they did, we'd be able to get better than 25% off. So McAfee called Cody fake. Cody called McAfee a stoner, which was a thing that somebody else said about him earlier. I might have been Punk, just shitting on his weed usage, which again, it's 2026. Like, I don't know if your fans are going to be whatever. And then he talked about how McAfee was very happy to stand on a table yeeting, which again, everybody has fucking stood on a table yeeting. Noted hypocrite CM Punk has stood yeeting on a table. So Cody started
Have you stood on a table yeeting?
I have never stood on a table yeeting. I don't know that I've even done anything that one would call yeet.
Have you lived? No table standing yeeting? For shame.
God,
I guess it's not in trend now.
Have you stood on a table yeeting?
No, but can I? Is that something I need to do?
I don't think either one of us needs to do that. I think our credibility would go up in flames if we did that.
We have credibility?
With 3 people.
It's all right. One of the things that people come at me most for was going to get so blown out of the water this week. Like, go into your fucking cave. Anyway, yeah. No, I have not stood on a table yeeting.
Well, this is clearly bucket list items. We've got to go to a WWE show.
We got to do it, right? That's part of the thing. Yeah,
all right, so to end this
End
promo, no. Cody walked away. He did that thing where he walks up the ramp, and then while Pat McAfee berated him, and I think he might have said something about his father, or that he was attached to Triple H's teat, which I appreciated. And then he ripped off all of his stuff, and then he ran back to the ring. But Randy Orton's on the Jumbotron. He's attacked Jelly Roll backstage. Poor Jelly. So he says he's going to bring Jelly Roll to and I'll give Cody Rhodes credit. He didn't fully turn his back to Pat McAfee. He was doing this kind of like half, like in between, like he knew he had two people coming after him. So Randy Orton drags Jelly Roll back out stage. Pat McAfee hits Cody Rhodes in the back of the head. Randy Orton runs backstage and then comes back again. And then it's like a 2-on-2 where Jelly Roll and Cody took on Randy and McAfee, and the crowd didn't give a flying fuck about any of this. Like, excuse me. This is bad. This is bad on multiple levels. It's not entertaining. I mean, I appreciate Pat McAfee's fake accent and him like obviously trying to be a heel. It's not entertaining. It makes no sense. I don't know why you would want to tell your audience that part of the company that owns you is bad. I mean, we saw this in AEW and it was a terrible idea. You're telling the audience that your tickets are overpriced. You're telling the audience that the people who are on top aren't stars and can't draw money, which again is like a fucking weirdo little wrestling thing, but still doesn't make a lot of sense for anybody to do. You've got Punk trying to insert himself as shit that he's not in that program. Hey, Phil, buddy, it's another program you're not involved in. Why don't you go back to the program you're building and stop fucking trying to get involved in other matches? And like, who gives a fuck about Pat McAfee in 2026? Who cares about fucking Jelly Roll? Like, I don't really give a shit about Cody. I don't think that Cody Rhodes is a particularly skilled promo, and I don't think he's a particularly skilled wrestler. I think he's medium at both of those things. But I think he's really good at being in the right place at the right time and knowing who to attach himself to. He's smart at figuring out who is hot and Barnacle-like attaching himself to those people, which fucking good for him. Like, a lot of people aren't that intelligent, and he's made a lot out of, you know, being a Nepo baby with a mediocre amount of talent. Good for him. Right? You know, I'd kill for that kind of stuff, but whatever. But like, you'd think that he'd be able to do something here. And like, why wouldn't you have him turn heel against Randy Orton? Like, I don't, and then the people being like, well, there's so much merch money to be made. Like, who gives a fuck about merch in 2026? Like, how much is Cody bringing in on American Nightmare t-shirts? Like, I don't know. This is just bad. I have not seen anything from anybody who's like, oh, this is great and I'm really excited. Like, only the really fucking most craziest hardcore of hardcore WWE people are trying to defend this, and they sound like psychos. I don't see how turning this fight into a WWE versus TKO feud makes any sense, because you're never going to have Ari Emanuel and Nick Khan in a match. Like, they're just not going to do it. So, like, what is the whole fucking point of any of this? It just is really stupid. And the whole thing, again, like I said at the top, you've got Triple H being really quick to say it's not his fault. It's not his fault. Ari Emanuel is pushing this whole thing. Like, fuck you, dude. Do your job. Like, you're supposedly this incredible creative booking genius, Booker of the Year, whatever, which apparently was when Vince McMahon was shadow fucking booking the whole thing, according to Hunter. So, like, what the fuck, dude? Make it work, right? Like, make it work. Sometimes someone coming in and forcing you to do something isn't terrible, because you have to do something you wouldn't normally do outside your comfort zone. Instead, it's going to be about the fucking business and Paul Bosch and the Attitude Era, and who gives a flying fuck about any of this shit in 2026? I don't know. Trish, defend it. Tell me why it was good.
You said tell you why it was good. I got nothing to say on that. We have lots of other things to say. Right. First of all, the idea... Thank you. The idea that everything that's being said here is all coming directly from TKO and Ari Emanuel and whatever is just such utter complete bollocks, right?
Bollocks.
It's complete bollocks. And it's so funny because it's like, what at the structure of the promo, especially the one he cut on SmackDown on Friday this week,
yes,
right?
Yes.
It's like literally bad, you know, hometown bad, da-da-da-da-da. This is like, and it's like literally every little kind of thing. You can see the structure of it. Then he does the work lines, then he does this, and I actually thought he was wearing a fucking earpiece, to be honest, because of the way that he was delivering things. And it's like, no.
He also does this gasping thing after every line, where he's like, "Trish, you're an incredible wrestler. I'm going to be even better than you." And I'm like, Jesus Christ, guy, take a second and draw breath. Like the delivery is fucked up.
Yeah, but it's like, it was such, you could see all the hallmarks of WWE promo over it. Yes. Right? All like he's hitting all the points, sort of thing, that go around like kind of traditional heel promo in WWE, plus all your work shoot shit. The other reason I don't buy it is I can fully buy that, you know, TKO wanted him in there with the ESPN connection. I can fully buy that the same way that they wanted The Rock last year.
Yeah.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Okay. Yep, absolutely, I buy that. Do I buy that all this creative is down to anyone else? No. Because this is a carbon copy of what they've tried to do the last 2 years, right? So they did the thing with The Rock, he tried to give him the match and he didn't, and then they played it up and they made The Rock the big heel character, and, you know, it wasn't Triple H, because Triple H is, you know, he has to be the boy that opens up everything like that. I'm sure his ego's fucking hurt by the reaction he got after, like, Cena got beat by Gunther and all that stuff. So it's like, no. So he can't be involved in this, right? He can't be the bad guy. We can't go back to the Authority. It can't be best for business. Ironic comparison there. Yeah. Like, it's like, oh no, we need somebody else to be the Paul Levesque character, the Triple H character than that. Then, like, compared to the Authority, it's the same fucking story. It's the same thing last year. The Rock came in, they did the thing, they did the Cena turn, and it's exactly the same thing. Like, oh, and he's representing TKO, and it was the same lines. And I was like, look, if you're doing the same thing 3 years in a row, because you obviously think it worked at one point, like the first year, and it probably did the work the first year, but that's something where you've pivoted into something and you've gone and reacted to it and you've done things right. And then last year you didn't have anything and it got worse. And then this year you don't have anything and it gets worse. In fact, what you do have is then you feel like you have to double down because you need to keep the impressions up. You need to keep things in the media. You need to keep things like that because that's for some reason how you think you're going to sell fucking tickets. Although you didn't get hot by doing that. You got hot by telling traditional fucking wrestling stories and maybe modernizing elements of them. But that's how you got hot. You got hot by cementing your characters as these people are hot right fucking now. It's not the Attitude Era. It's not 30 years ago. We don't need to fucking keep talking about Stone Cold and The Rock in 1998 and everything like that. That was fine. They didn't do that. You know, they did the 30th year Raw anniversary show in Philadelphia, and the first hour and a half of it is just the fucking Bloodline and Sami Zayn.
Right.
And fucking right, because that thing was fucking hot.
Right.
You said here and now. Yeah, you said here and now, this... what we're delivering now is WWE. Not fucking nostalgia, like, tours. Not running this person out for the 15th fucking time. No, these guys now, this is what you need to look into. Lock in, you know, we're delivering great content now. Things that you can look back on in 10, 20 years and, you know, have moments and memories and all the fucking trigger words that they use. And you know what? They were doing it. And that's why they were hot. And that's why it was a struggle for AEW and everyone else.
Right. Right.
And then when we said, do you remember when they did the Drew McIntyre CM Punk feud? And we said, work shoots, they start to bleed in. And the more they start to bleed in, the more you start to rely on them. And it's not just CM Punk, right? Because,
no,
again,
it's not.
They did this with the Cody Rock stuff the first year. And then again last year as well with the Cena Cody stuff, right? It's like you think it's a blueprint that works, so you've become more reliant on it. And then as everything else starts to fall, you become even more reliant on it because you want the shock numbers. And they'll be looking at that number of SmackDown last week, or the week before last. They did the big number.
Have a good number.
Yeah, but it got the big number because it was who at the end of the phone. It's like when they did the fucking Wyatt reveal.
Yeah.
You know?
It
doesn't mean jack shit for like in a few weeks.
I'm curious as to whether they do a number this past Friday night, and I think that'll tell you more about whether people give a shit about some of this McAfee stuff or not.
Well, yes and no, because who the fuck knows what's going on with the numbers at the moment either. As they have another increase, you know, we don't know. It's really difficult to kind of look at that from that. But yeah, maybe. I guess if you're looking at younger demos and maybe seeing that, but down demos are still fun. But yeah, they'll look at it like that and think, oh, we did this fantastic number, so it's fucking working. And instead of looking at it and going, you know, like people did with WCW in 1998 and going, right, we got all these people to tune in and then we delivered this.
Yeah.
So where are we going to be in 6 months? Where are we going to be in a year? Where are we going to be in 18 months? Where are we going to be in 24 months? That's the difference. You delivered this and it fucking sucked. And it's not just us saying it, who generally are watching from the outside. The people that are investing in your product, the people that fly to WrestleManias, that buy your merchandise, that subscribe to ESPN Unlimited that you need for that deal. You know, who go to WrestleMania and generate you site fees and all this stuff. Those fucking people thought it sucked too.
Yeah.
And they're the people that still are the element of your business that you need. Because you can sell, you know, pay-per-view PLEs to whichever city. You can sell things, media rights, so that they are reliant on your audience. And it's the loyalty of wrestling audiences that keeps like them competitive in that sense. You are relying on that audience being invested. And you don't want to chip that away. The last time you chipped that away, you got an AEW. So it's like...
Which Cody pointed out in his promo.
Yeah, because what we're doing now is we're throwing all this shit out there, and instead of saying invest in our stories, invest in our characters, invest in our wrestlers, we're going, oh, we're going to blur all the fucking lines, and they probably got high off the stuff from Unreal as well. And it's like...
fucking Unreal shit is unreal.
Yeah. So now it's like, oh, so we're going to blur that. And yeah, all the stuff with the Cody stuff with The Rock and everything like that, they think, oh, we can do this and it works and it works and it works. And it's an easy option. It's a crutch. And that's why we said, as soon as you start bringing this in, and we said it with Punk McIntyre because that was the first example, you know, like on that side, it's like, as soon as you start bringing this in, it gets worse and it bleeds and it bleeds and it becomes like a cancer to your business. And it's like, every single time. And the ability for everyone to fall back into the same fucking pattern in recent years is like driving me absolutely crazy.
You'd think you'd learn from your fucking mistakes.
Yeah. And then it's like, there's so many bits of this that make no fucking sense whatsoever. So one, you've now created, instead of a Cody Randy Orton feud, you actually have Cody versus Pat McAfee, right?
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, and CM Punk versus Pat McAfee rather than CM Punk and Roman Reigns. So you're blurring the lines on that, which never helps anybody. Then you have this thing where you have this heel, sort of. It's like, the guy's supposed to be your top heel, right? You're picking your top heel, and it's like, that's essentially what you've done. You've not made Orton the top heel or anyone else. You've made Pat McAfee your top heel, and then he's out there, like, basically taking shots at your baby faces that they can't fucking reply to.
Right.
So it's like, like, the Punk stuff, like, you wiped the floor with him what he said, because like, you exposed the things that you don't expose to your fucking audience. So it's like, oh, he did his line on his radio show where he was like, you know, Punk saying about lowering ticket prices because he's not worth the admission point. And then, you know, and I was just like, how can you not say that's true? Like, you've literally, for years and years and years, WWE have told people that, like, we do these great gates because our products is worth this. And then you literally tell them by doing that. It was a bizarre fucking thing to do. And then he does the line on the Friday night with the Saudi Arabia thing. As much as we think it's fucking funny, it's like exposing a guy whose brand on your television is about how morally right he is as a fucking hypocrite. It's like, it's funny for us to laugh at. It's funny for us to laugh at him being used as the guy to say, oh, we're going to lower ticket prices, you know, in certain markets this summer or whatever. And then knowing, like, he was behind, like, so many of the ticket price increases in AEW. That's funny to us. That's not something you put out to your own fucking fan base. Like, you are killing your fucking baby faces. And that's before we even get to Cody Rhodes. Cody Rhodes, and he has much to do with this as well. You know, he's been booked basically through the floor as a babyface in so many ways over the last year. Of just fucked up booking. And then he has a whole role to play in this. Because it's like, there's part of the politics. You don't want to lose to Roman Reigns after, like, Seth Rollins goes, you know, down with an injury. And it's like, okay, fine. So you get out of it.
How is this better for you, buddy?
Yeah. How is this better than losing to Roman Reigns? How is this better?
Yeah.
And the fact
it's not. You look like a fucking idiot.
And the fact that, like, McAfee and Randy Orton versus Jelly Roll and Cody is pretty much confirmed as the main event for Backlash, which means that, you know, you spoiled that Orton's winning. Is like, so instead of being pinned by Roman Reigns, and you had this little kind of thing going on between you and whatever, like, your idea of getting out of this has now ended up with basically, and it's not Randy Orton's going to pin you, it's like Pat McAfee, right? That's going to be the big thing. So not content with, like, Travis Scott walking down to the ring for, like, through treacle or concrete perhaps last year, so you could do the Lost to Cena and be booed. You're going to do this. All these moves that have been talked about, like, it's like, oh, to get him cheered. Like, none of this is getting fucking cheered. Orton was beating him down. It was like pure silence because they don't want to boo Orton. They want, like, the nostalgia.
They do not want to boo Randy Orton. No. They don't.
So you've picked the wrong fucking guy to do with this because they don't want to boo her. And so many of the things that they were saying between each other, and, like, the crowd's just not responding to anything because they don't fucking care. There's no reason for them to care. They don't care about any of this stuff. It's like, oh, someone goes, oh, but they go, ooh, and it's like, yeah, like 10 of them. The rest of them were just like that. And it's such a quiet promo. Like, it's so funny because they had a promo on the same show between Trick Williams and Sami Zayn where they're doing a double turn, right? So Sami's doing, like, he's pretending to be sincere and, like, I hear all the booing, but I'm all of this. And I've actually got all the fans behind, you know, I've got my fans and all this. And you can see it because you can see the work in it and the setups that he does for Williams when he comes down to cut his, like, baby, you know, his heel babyface promos, and whether you think Williams should turn or not is a different thing. But you can see, like, the double turn, you can see the presentation of it. It's standard pro wrestling booking. It works perfectly. It's like, it's no coincidence that the reactions to that promo was a very fucking quiet crowd in general in San Jose. Were much, much better than the reactions to your world title program Saturday Night Main Event, you know, that went on for half an hour of the fucking show. Like, it doesn't make any sense. All you're doing is making things worse for Cody now. Like, and he's doing this to himself too. Like, if you've politicking this half of this yourself, like, you put yourself in this position. And
this is the thing you say about these guys with the politicking, and I get it sometimes. Like, I think sometimes I don't want to come across like I don't understand that there's reasons why you would do that, right? You have to protect yourself as a wrestler. You have to think about your career. I get it. I'm not saying that like I'm not sympathetic to those things, but you end up in a situation when you do this, and we've seen this in AEW too, where it's like, who wants to work with you? Like, who wants to be involved in your programs, right? Because of like what you're putting out and what you're willing to do. And it's like, you can do all this shit by yourself, but at the end of the day, you're going to have a title reign where you're beating mid-carders, like, and fucking celebrities. Like, how is that helping you long term? I think Cody is like sort of fucked himself here. I mean, and I also get from his perspective, it's not like WWE has done a good job of bringing people up and getting them to a level where Cody being involved with them means something, right? It's the same 5 guys at the top of the card that have been there for years at this point.
Yeah, but they're all jousting for positions, and you're right. Like, there's an element to wanting to protect your spot, your brand, your earning value, right?
I get it.
It all makes sense, but it's at the same time, it's like, how have you fucked yourself so badly to go from like night 2 main event, you and Roman Reigns, after Seth went injured, because obviously, Seth Rollins and Roman Reigns, that's Sunday night main event written all over it. And it's like, but then you make these choices, and every single one of these choices gets worse. And none of them solve the problem of the crowds like not being behind you in the way that they were a few years ago. And that's because you haven't changed. Your character hasn't moved. It doesn't really suffer any kind of setbacks.
Consequences. Yeah, setbacks.
Like you did the Cody Cena turn thing, and it's like, okay, yeah, he lost at Mania, and then you knew it was coming back to him, and by SummerSlam it did, and they booed him when he got it back, and it's like, you've not solved any of these things, and it's like, I think it's fine because that's what we did with Cena, but it's like, wouldn't it just be better if you could have him as a baby face, or you could do something else with him and elevate someone else? But of course they're going to elevate someone else because they don't believe in anybody else. And I know, like, people are looking at the Obafemi and Trick Williams matches to show that they care about some of these people come out. I've got news for you, right? And this is very well sourced. From the very, from things that we know going on around the very top of TKO. They do not believe in the people that they have there. They do not believe in the people they have coming through. So that's why these people can stay on top as they are as well, because they're proven commodities from that sense to TKO, to WWE. They don't believe in anybody else. And I look at this and I think, how do you salvage this? You've told everybody that you aren't selling tickets, that WrestleMania isn't selling tickets, that your babyface world champion isn't a draw, but also, that isn't on the level of the people from the past generations. Biggest
not
problem.
Worth rooting for.
Not worth rooting for. Yeah. Why should you care about this babyface and then, we'll just expose the other, top babyface as a hypocrite, which he is, but that's the point. It's like, we're going to expose him for like his failures because he doesn't actually really care about you. And hey, he said, lower the ticket prices, Emmanuel, and then Pat McAfee delivers. If you're going to give your baby face, right, and then like when they lowered some prices in the markets this year, you're going to give the baby face a recognition for that. No, you haven't, because you've muddied that now because Pat McAfee went to Dodge Ram Trucks. We're doing a whole fucking infomercial for Dodge Ram Trucks today. Went to Dodge Ram Trucks and got you 25% off the night off WrestleMania, which I think is moved, looking at the WrestleTix sheet, I think it moved about 600, Saturday into Sunday. But it's still, for Bill's estimates on WrestleTix, he's still like a couple thousand behind night 2. And that should tell you something. Because, look, you're at 41,000 now, 43,000 night 2. Last year they did like a 10,000 last week, kind of for both. And so we expect it, as I said last time around, 50,000 range, probably less paid than, the 46,900 number from Tanahashi's retirement, etc. Okay, they would be good numbers in the past for a WrestleMania. Like WrestleMania 28 is not too far on that, right? However, what you should take from this, the biggest thing that I take from this, it's not their shitty WCW type creative. And look, all the comparisons to WCW, some of them can be absolutely wayward. This is fucking WCW 2000 nonsense.
Yes, it is.
This is that sort of backwards fucking bullshit that was just everywhere at that point. This is throwing things at the fucking wall because you've run out of any sensible ideas and you can't build things for longer than a fucking week, and your creative changes every fucking week. Your wrestlers don't know what they're fucking doing. There is no long-term vision anymore. Vision. That's another story entirely. Fuck. To the point where Bron Breakker, you wait for him to come back to do your Seth Rollins angle, right? Because you're going to set up a break of Seth Rollins. Oh, we have fuck all for Gunther to do. We had him beat John Cena and AJ Styles, and we don't know what to do. We'll shove him in there, and our Breaker's not going to do that WrestleMania match now. Okay. Yeah, that's where you're at. It's not... This is a symptom of something that's much larger underneath, rather than being something that's just happening to shock. Because it's not just that the creative is all fucking over the place, it's that we keep talking about this. They cannot afford just to have good numbers. This does not happen if they just have good numbers. You know, when they were at 30,000 or 35,000 like a month and a half ago for WrestleMania, in the past, that would have been fine. But that's not where you are right now.
Right.
And that's why you get John Cena special WrestleMania host, still wearing all his fucking gear from when he was on his retirement run. You know, because
the last time is now, not the last time we told you it was the last time. It's now, and maybe again in the future will be the last time. But at some point that will be the last time. We're just not sure exactly when. But it might be now, so you should buy a ticket.
It's like Santos retirement tours, for fuck's sake, you know, like. It's like, this is what you're doing. It's like, so he's now back on like that, and now we need something else to throw at it. So we're going to come up with Pat McAfee. Okay, that's the best you can get. Oh, because The Rock said he was busy, did he? Like, you can see Dave on Friday basically crying out for, like, please come back, Rock.
Oh, he was. It was really fucking hilarious.
Here are the consequences for your own actions, because last year you put everything creative down on him. Like, you ran him publicly through the mill, right? Yep. And that's not to say that he did not have a role in wanting Cody to turn heel and, you know, taking over and that sort of thing. But the fact is, he wouldn't have fucking been there if Elimination Chamber was doing what TKO expected it to do in Toronto.
Yep.
He was brought in because they weren't selling the tickets they expected with what they had creative in place. And it's the same thing here. If this, you know, WrestleMania was doing what, you know, some people predicted because next year's in Saudi Arabia, and people are rushed to Las Vegas. And obviously, yeah, there's world-dependent factors and everything with the US and everything right now. And also, you know, cost of living, etc., etc., etc. But that's where Pat McAfee was right in some ways in what he said. If their product was as hot as, you know, they need it to be to sustain these kind of pricing and sustain these kind of site fees from different places, you know, they're supposed to be doing 2 nights in Minneapolis in August, and that's fucking frightening to think about right now. Like, none of this happens. It happens because you are unable to deliver what they need you to deliver from a business sense where you're creative to make it work. We don't live in an era now where 50,000 is fine for WWE in these places, or where 35,000 is looked at and gone, oh, that's a pretty good, you know, that's a great stadium number. It's a great stadium number, but that's not the world they live in, because they want $5 million from this place or this city, or they want $5 million from this place, and that's the way their business model works. It's constant growth, constant economic growth. And yes, this year will look nice and flashy on their charts because of the Saudi Arabia dates. And even if they don't go to Saudi Arabia, that money sits on their chart, and then it, you know, they make the dates back up in the future like they did with COVID. So it's like, it looks nice on paper, but it has to continue to look better on paper and better on paper and better on paper. And it's like, so then you get into these shock things where you're doing stupid shit all the fucking time because you need to pop these fucking 1 week rating. But all it does is destroy everything until all these things go away, and then you're left with fucking nothing. And it's exactly what we warned about 3 years ago. It's exactly when they start to bleed this stuff in, and it's like what you do at the top sometimes is more important than how you got there, because that tells you how long you're going to sustain for, and whether you can have a continued kind of period like, you know, I mentioned New Japan earlier in the 2010s. It's like you can have that, but that's like continued development, continue moving people up. You lose somebody, okay, you move someone else up into that spot. It's all about how you tell them stories, how you integrate those characters together, how you keep everything so those stories are things that mean something to people, but don't go on about the fucking business. Like, look at like Tanahashi and Kenny Omega leading up to Wrestle Kingdom in 2019, where the whole story is about differences in wrestling philosophies and generations. It wasn't, oh, I too, you know, Tanahashi goes, I drew this many much in the Tokyo Dome. And then, but actually, this isn't even fucking that, is it? Because this would be like Tanahashi, like, but setting up to wrestle Kenny Omega, turning heel for no apparent reason, even though everyone wanted to cheer him, right? Like, if they did that, rather than his, you know, they play Shades of Grey sometimes for Tanahashi. I quite like when he does that, but no, it'd be like taking, I don't know, think of a fucking useless celebrity. Can we can we fit who's on the radio? I know who's on the radio in Japan, but you're taking them and you're making them in this program. It's like, now I've got an image of like Pat McAfee wrestling Kenny Omega, and I'm like shuddering at the thought. But it's like, that's what you're doing. Like, this doesn't make any fucking sense. It's not worth money. I do not believe for 1 minute that this is worth more than what they could have done with a Cody Orton story in general. There were some themes that they could play off. There was some stuff when they had the match like last year that they built in that they could have done with that. It would have been much more interesting as a babyface. You could have done stuff with Orton where he's teasing falling back into like the Viper character because of things that happen between them. Like, and you don't necessarily have to get Cody booed by doing that. And then people could have that excitement. And if you want to do the turn, you can do the turn. But what they've done now is make this cold, heartless, and about things that really don't fucking matter, while highlighting that they know they're not in the position they used to be, and they're not in a position they need to be in. Right. And you're telling your fucking audience that. And it's like, we've seen this so many times before.
It never ends well.
Waste. It never ends well. And you are where you are. And, yeah. Did you see Royce Keys made his SmackDown debut on Friday night?
Yes. It's his first television appearance since the Royal Rumble. And it was basically he beat somebody quickly, didn't he?
Yeah, and to silence, because they ran the video for him, you know, like about his upbringing and stuff and everything like that. And it was right after actually Jacob Fatu was doing the kind of same stuff. So that was kind of weird. But it was like, okay, you run that vignette like a few weeks ago, and then you do the match. Maybe people react to it. Instead, it was like most of that show played out to silence. So, yeah, and then Danhausen did his comedy cane thing and blew up a pyro thing.
Well, it's funny when you look at it, like, right, because AEW did a whole video series on Hobbs' background and his growing up in the whole situation he had. Yeah. And it's the same thing. What Danhausen is doing in WWE seems really similar to what he did in AEW. Like, there's not a lot of anything new. Although he is interacting with Malachi Black, which I find very amusing. It's just like they bring these characters in, or they bring these people in, and they don't have anything for them that's different than anything they were doing previously. And I do think that's fine, because I think sometimes that stuff works. Like, if you just move from one company to another, you can kind of refresh yourself. But it is kind of interesting to me, like, how they sort of shit. We know that WWE shits on AEW constantly, but when they get these people in, they just seem to be doing what they were doing before. They don't do anything different with them.
Some other thing I think is a lack of imagination, but also I think and to a degree with a character like Danhausen, but when you get someone, like, thinking more about like Cody or Punk, like, their value in them is taking that character over, right?
Oh, agreed.
It's not in changing it up or making anything like that. The fact they're rehashing the stories, well, Punk does that his whole career, right? But it's like, with Cody and stuff, it's like, yeah, I get that. But also, is that air influence? Is it the kind of thing like that? There's a limit to it. I think they think that taking that presentation that's made for them is a better option than trying to regenerate something from something new.
They don't seem to have a lot of new ideas over there, but, you know.
They definitely need they need, like Cody. So Cody was like a what's the word? I'm trying to think. I mean, it's difficult because they were already on like an upward turn with the bloodline stuff, right?
Yeah.
But the Cody thing just put so much energy into them. And it was like instant as well. It changed the momentum. It was a game changer in that moment. Because when you look at the rest of that summer, you know, they'd had the first sold out pay-per-view they'd had for a while with him and Seth Rollins in the June shows. You know, just about the time after like Punk beat Page and then got injured, and then MJF cut his shoot wig promo, which also is another example of exactly what we're talking about here. And it's like all that stuff happened and that momentum kind of flipped, but that game-changing moment was him appearing there in his full AEW presentation. Right. And they will look at that. They will absolutely 100% categorically, not speaking out my ass, look at people in AEW, perhaps just underneath the main event kind of thing, you know, not the... You know, just underneath the main eventers. So maybe not your Max or your Moxley or that sort of thing, which I'm sure they'd love John Moxley back, but at some point, because you can do so much Shield stuff. But they'll look for those people just underneath that maybe think that it may be worth them going, because you can see that, like, although there's this kind of power structure in place at the top of WWE, it's so stagnant that even someone in like TKO or W are going to realize that you're going to need to break it up.
They have to break it at some point. They're going to have to break it at some point.
But I don't think they look at anybody in their own thing and think that's a thing. They look at AEW and think that's their NXT for them now. That's the people you got from, because you're going to have people that are draws. They're proven draws, and you can bring them across, and they're going to have an impact for you straight away, which is what you want. And then you also have the thing of, damaging AEW by taking them, and that's going to be their focal point. But with this whole thing, look, it's hard to see how they salvage it. I don't think they will. I think it'll probably just get worse, and we'll just keep playing into it, and we'll keep doing damage. I don't know. Maybe there's a swerving coming, but it's hard to see one right now that would make any difference. It's like, yeah, you're right. They've set it up like Nick Khan needs to wrestle, or Ari Emanuel needs to wrestle, and it's like...
They're not gonna.
No, but yeah, because there's a point where I thought, there's a way to saving this of having a stable of like TKO and a figurehead, but they don't have the people for that. And I don't know. But it'll be interesting. It's going to be a fascinating week. Obviously, the big thing is that they've got their first hour on ESPN each night, and to see how that performs, see NBA Wildcard Weekend, and see how that performs against the recent UFC show on CBS, and also just against their recent numbers on NBC, I think, as well. Because the NBC dates, you can look at them as comparable in some ways, because those shows were also on Peacock.
Right.
So it's not like you can say, oh, these weren't available in full on a streaming element as well. They were, even though, so you should get an idea of the number. Will that number be what we kind of expect it to be? You want it to be in the range of maybe a SmackDown debut on USA, or definitely in the range of the number that Cena did back last May for Saturday Night's Main Event. So like anything below that is like, what the fuck's going on here? So that's a fascinating number. And even in this new range of numbers, I think we can probably work out, because we've had the UFC one so recently, since the big data change in January, we should be able to work out enough about how much actual interest is there as part of ESPN brand. And it's important for their relationship with ESPN, which has had comments all over the place, left, right and centre. So what does that actually look like this week? Because when they wanted people to come in and get unlimited, or to sign up for full packages with Hulu or whatever it is that they wanted, like the big golden thing was WrestleMania, right? That's the name, that's the number, that's the one they want. It's not WrestlePalooza, it's not, fucking no, Backlash in Tampa Bay or whatever. It's WrestleMania. That's the brand, right? That's the big brand that WWE is selling from in terms of their PLE content, and that you want to have the biggest impact. So this is a really big test, and this is the big test that we spoke about back when they signed their deal. And everything leading into it is probably far more chaotic than we could ever have come out with back in September. But yeah, Paul Levesque, he never disappoints. He never disappoints.
He really doesn't.
All right. We do the thing for this one. So we couldn't talk this week without talking about the updates to the Janel Grant
correct
case, and around the affidavit that was filed ahead of the hearing for whether this case will go to arbitration or whether it will remain in court. As normal, we leave it to the end because of feedback from our listeners. So if it is not something that you feel like you can listen to right now because of the content and the themes being discussed, thank you for listening this week. We'll see you next time out. But we need to discuss it. It's quite a harrowing read. So this was a very long kind of filing that really expanded on what we saw with the original lawsuit, with a lot more detail in terms of encounters that she had with Vince McMahon, with John Laurinaitis, and detail kind of... I think the thing that I came away was the feeling of feeling kind of captive and controlled. I mean, she used a phrase that I kept reading, and she said, I felt used, leveraged, humiliated, shamed, dehumanized, intimidated and exploited for the business and the sexual gratification of these men. And that's just, as a personal, as a human, that's just kind of harrowing to think about feeling like that in that aspect.
Yep.
So it's one thing to list out all the kind of behaviour, including allegations of rape, So the trafficking that's long been talked about, but it's like, it's another thing to think about that personal impact that it has on somebody. And she also lists out the suicide attempt that she made after everything happened as well. And it's a kind of when she was speaking at the convention back a month ago, and we talked about that kind of re-victimization and that kind of impact. I think it's always get left with kind of the human impact on these things. Some of the other things that were noted in this filing that was an extension to previous things or were new details was around the arrival of Nick Khan. When she said, in hindsight, I view Nick's arrival as the moment that my life changed for the worst. My fears about reporting the abuse were realised when I learned from Vince that he put the company's new president, essentially his second in command, on notice of his ongoing sexual conduct with me. And that's kind of a thing. So she's saying that Nick Khan was aware of their relationship. She's previously said that Brad Blum was also aware of their relationship. But that they then kind of defined her as a corporate liability, which is one way of looking at something, I guess. She also noted extra around her kind of interactions with Brock Lesnar and said that she started having communication from him in late 2021 and that she understood that I would not only be expected to perform sexually for Brock, but also be expected to travel to other states to do so, and claimed that Lesnar knew about that she was working with WWE amongst their contact, and that when she began to talk about talent relations, he suddenly reacted with rage, suppressing both that he hates talent relations, especially Johnny, and that he thought I was working in the legal department. So it's like, it's quite complicated in terms of those communications, but it just relays additional ones. The other things as well is that she talks kind of about a few things that actually relate to the NDA that I think would be interesting for them to kind of follow up on. Because when you're looking at the validity of this NDA, one of the key things...
It's what the lawsuit revolves around, essentially. Yes.
Because the thing is, so then this hearing that's coming up in June is about whether this case goes to arbitration, because that was the clause that's around any dispute that's in the NDA, right?
Right.
But the thing is that I think they have an argument to say that why are they still living to this NDA? Because Vince broke the NDA.
He didn't pay her.
He didn't pay. Well, he paid her the first payment.
Correct.
He didn't pay her the second payment because he believed that she had spoken to someone and thus broke the NDA that led to the Wall Street Journal story.
Correct.
However, I think there was something interesting in this affidavit around that, because she says that back in January 2022, that McMahon said that an anonymous source was leaking info about their relationship, and then that Grant says that she was worried about the source possibly having explicit material of her. And McMahon details about, said that it could be details of their relationship would hurt his career. So Vince, her claim is that Vince in January 2022 believed that there was an anonymous source leaking information about their relationship. So if he believes that, how can he prove that she was the person that spoke to the Wall Street Journal? That thus meant that he stopped paying and broke the NDA from that sense.
Right.
I just think that's quite an interesting point. And they're not focused on it because her focal point in terms of the NDA and the argument against the NDA being enforced in terms of arbitration is more about that she signed it under duress, right?
Right.
So her major argument is that that's how it was signed for her. She was put under pressure to sign. McMahon said that he would be double fucked if it wasn't signed. And she, in her quote, I interpreted Vince's word on the recording as an explicit threat of sign it or else on a deadline that backed me into a corner. So she puts it down to all the significant stress and feeling like she's trapped in a system of exploitation that led to her kind of signing this thing. So it's all about that duress, and that's why she's gone to the senators in Connecticut and talked about kind of things that need to be changed in terms of being allowed to kind of take these things to court and that sort of thing, rather than being shut down, because similar to the way like the Ring Boys lawsuit was able to be filed because of changing the laws in Maryland. And you can see the point in that. So the argument for her is that she was under duress when she signed and everything around that. And because of the nature of everything there, like you look at that as part of the argument. But I do think there's something to say where you can say he broke the NDA. And how can this be enforced now when the first break of the NDA that's provable, because unless he can prove that she gave that information to the Wall Street Journal and nothing to do with anonymous sourcing or other people in WWE, and some of the details are very suspect, and obviously her name was well known, as we talked about last time we talked about this case with Brad Shepard putting it out straight away. It's like, I don't see and maybe, I need to know more about the US legal service and that, but it's like, I think there's an argument there. But this is now where the point we're at, and the biggest thing is around the follow-up, because John Laurinaitis, who was been removed from this lawsuit, and now is just Vince McMahon and WWE. His lawyer put out a statement, and it was all about, and it wasn't exactly someone who was in an agreement to provide evidence, so they were removed from the lawsuit. It was, my client has no need to comment on the salacious affidavit. Anyone can make allegations, whether these allegations are going to stand the harsh sunlight of cross-examination is another matter entirely. It's not exactly like someone that you're apparently somewhat on the same side with now, but whatever. But I thought what was really interesting, and not in a great way, is the reaction to everyone else. So what we did see was ESPN actually covering it. It was Andreas Hell, who also was the reporter that had the grading for WrestlePalooza, that then led to them removing or grading the pay-per-view. So they did cover it.
They did cover it, and I'm sorry. I appreciate that people want to praise this kind of shit, but I'm like, you can't praise ESPN for fucking the bare minimum. Like, the bare minimum is covering this case. And thank you, Andreas Hale, for doing it, but like, I shouldn't have to thank somebody for doing a job they're getting paid for. Like, give me a break. Cover this. No,
we shouldn't. We just notice it because, at the point it's noteworthy, because of the previous behavior. I'm not saying like, thank you for doing your job.
I'm not talking about, I'm talking about you. I'm like, there were people on Twitter who were like, oh my God, thank you so much. And I'm like, fuck off. Like, come on, the bare minimum.
But the other thing I think is noteworthy is, rather than them trying to shy away from Vince McMahon with this kind of thing coming out, they're just increasing the mentions of him. They did the whole Cody and Stephanie promo at MSG that was all around their fathers and that sort of thing. Had no need to be there, no need to be that like that. They've had other mentions on TV of him. They've had Logan Paul on the Stephanie McMahon podcast praising him like that. And it's like, it feels like a setup for a Vince McMahon. It does. And they're not shying away from it now. There's no hiding the name anymore. It's just constantly like talking about him, and just mixing that. And it's the same with Lesnar. Like, there's nothing good that's going to be done around Lesnar now. They've just made the decision to bring him back. Obviously, ESPN have an investment in him that's not bothered about this, because they're the ones, according to numerous sources, that were pushing for him to be part of the open first hour on ESPN TV. So they don't care. It's all. There is very much a feeling, I think, in a lot of this, in terms of the way they're behaving now, that they think they've moved past it. WWE think they've moved past it. They either think it's going to go to arbitration, or they're going to settle it, right?
Yep.
They're the two options. That's what's going to come now. So they're moving past it now. And if that means Vince is back on TV, so be it. They don't care at this point. They don't think it's going to have the press that it would have had like a few years ago. They think it's just that one thing where times have moved on. We've got 100 other stories going on, and that's it. So that's what they've done. And it's the same with Lesnar now. Everything around that was done in September.
Yep.
There was no change to their sponsors. There was no change to, their media partners. Obviously, it's actually the opposite here. ESPN want him. And that's probably no surprise. Look at some of the UFC fighters that have been kind of priorities for ESPN over recent years, despite conduct. So that's not a huge surprise on that. But that's where we're at now. So it will go to hearing in June for whether it goes to arbitration or not. And then, if it doesn't, I would expect it to be settled before it even goes to Discovery, because they don't want to go through Discovery.
They do not want to go through Discovery.
No,
agreed.
But I think the hardest thing is that we'll look back in a few years and it'll it's hard, right? Because this is one person's experience, right? It's their life. It's the impact that it's had on their life to the point where they were suicidal, and everything that's come since, and the disruption to it, and the way their name is known, and how that's kind of led to re-victimization. You have that personal impact, and it's horrendous. Like, the things that this individual has been through are horrendous. And then we look back on a cultural thing and think, you know, her standing up and saying her experience and what happened to her, and you think, has this changed anything?
Nope.
No. And that's probably the thing that's most demoralizing. It's like, oh, he's not in the business. I bet you he's... we just found that we just seen all the text messages with, like, the Triple H and Nick Khan ones before the TKO takeover.
Yep.
And it's like, he was still there. He was still there. He was still active. We saw that it's like, he's been away for a while. He still has that huge influence. You know, look how many of them were at his birthday party and everything there. It's like, he still has that influence. Yep. And maybe he's not directly calling creative shots and texting, you know, Levesque to change this booking and change there. But the wrestlers still treat him in the same way. They still have that relationship with him. You know, there's still that loyalty factor. The way that he produces wrestling and does things are still seen as the way to do it. You know, I said with that McAfee promo, like, there's the short line and everything like that. That's like Vince McMahon stuff, you know? Even like the things like Bayley being beaten in San Jose, oh look, he beat in our hometown, you know, like all the Vince McMahon-isms are still there. And it's hard to get your head around that sometimes, that after everything, after someone having the courage to kind of stand up in that way, the structure and the system doesn't move.
Yeah. It's depressing.
And it's depressing. But yeah, if you want to read the full affidavit, you can. It is available on the government site in full. I think both Post and the Observer have got full links to that there. And yeah, that's where we're at right now. But you know, we said that when we started covering this case that we would cover it for as long as it was relevant, or well, not relevant, that's the wrong word, but as long as things were ongoing.
Yeah, as long as it's active.
Yes, thank you. And that's what we've intended to do, and that's what we have been doing, and we'll continue to do. And any of these social issues, really. Because there's so many places now that step away from them, don't want to talk about them, or shy away from it. And we don't want to be in that place. So. Right. I think that's it for now, really.
Yeah.
It feels kind of hard to go from something like that to try to talk about something nice, but I do want to say... Yeah, it's weird, isn't it? But yeah. I do want to say a couple of things. So I do want to say that our newsletter is now officially a year old. Social Suplex. Ta-da. And, you know, for me personally, this was a stupid idea in my head for... You know, I bugged you, I bugged Rich, I bugged everybody for like 6 months going, I should just do this. And it's hard sometimes. It's a lot of work. It's hard because everyone else has got, you know, life involvement. None of us are full-time or able to do anything like that. We all balance it with everything, you know, with everything else that we do. But I have to say that, you know, I'm proud of what we've been able to put out so far. I'm proud of the stories and the level of content we put out and the range of content, the coverage of so many different promotions from around the world. You know, the level of our Japan coverage, which is, there's second to none. Absolutely second to none.
Agreed.
But also just the amount of different viewpoints that we've been able to kind of incorporate into everything. And just like the team that we built, really. You know, to have so many people come on board who we never even knew a year ago. It's crazy. And to have them all to work together and keep building this thing is something I'm proud of. And I don't normally talk about what I'm proud of very often. It's you give me stick for it all the time, but this one I am proud of. I'm proud of what we do as a network. I'm proud of what we do. I'm proud of, you know, other podcasts on our network do, but this one, for me personally, is something I'm probably most proud of, and I'm proud of that team that continues to build and also tolerates me because I'm an absolute nightmare sometimes writing-wise. But it's it's a group environment, and it's literally doing what I asked it to. So it's not very often I do the kind of congratulations sort of thing, self-congratulations. But so check it out this week when it comes out. There's going to be loads of great content and loads of news in it as well. Lots of original source stuff too. So and some really great features, great reviews. There's just so much in it, and it's a free resource. It's available to everybody. There's so little out there like that now with this sort of depth. So please take advantage of it, but also thank you very much to everyone that's been involved, is involved, will be involved in the future. I'm just proud of where we got to with that. But I just wanted to say that. Probably should have done it at the beginning, but I'm not very good at laying things out sometimes. So there we are.
We don't do that kind of chit-chat at the beginning. That's not our scene.
No, it's not, right? It's not. So, it's a funny one, isn't it? And we didn't cover the TNA pay-per-view because...
We didn't watch it.
We didn't watch it. I was doing Wrestlers Reunion this morning. You were probably doing something better in your life. I don't know. But
I was asleep. You know I was asleep.
Yeah, so something better in your life. So apologies for that too. Sorry, Harrison. I'm so sorry.
Womp womp.
Oh, but
somewhere Lance Storm just started crying and he's not sure why.
Yeah, but that's where we are. We'll be back in 2 weeks' time. We will discuss everything around AEW then that comes out of this week. And we will discuss everything that comes out of WrestleMania. And maybe I'll write a huge news story next week. Maybe I won't. We'll find out.
We'll see.
But we'll see.
Womp womp.
It's been a crazy month, completely crazy month. And hopefully we'll get to tell the story at some time down the line. But until then, no, I'm going to get told off. Fucking hell. I'll do this right one day. So this is a Trish and Sarah Wrestling podcast, and we are produced by Leah of Tunnel Talk, who is responsible for making everything work on this and for bringing everything together. So always thank you very much, Leah, for that. You can listen to Tunnel Talk every Sunday. I will do my plug. On wherever you listen to your podcast for the latest on stories, characters, and everything else AEW. We'll be back in 2 weeks. I've been Trish.
I've been Sarah.
And we thank you for listening to the Trish and Sarah Wrestling Podcast, even if I screw up the eggs. It's every single fucking time. Bye, folks.